Welcome to Strip Cover Lit. I'm Adrian Fort.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
And we're here with another review. What is this review, Dalton?
We are continuing our push through George Saunders, the 10th of December.
Yes.
This is Home by George Saunders.
Yes, a wonderful literary masterpiece.
Shut your mouth. This is hopefully going to be one of the last few George Saunders we do. I know we still have Alixandra
and My Chivalric Fiasco.
So we're almost done with a book that's taken us 6 months to read.
Yes.
But anyway.
6? We started this in February,
That long ago?
Yeah.
My God. Anyway, George Saunders, 3 good things, 3 bad things about Home.
Number 1, again, darkness mixed with humor.
Okay.
Number 2, I talk a lot about sacred cows and how a writer has to kill his sacred cows to be able to speak honestly and truthfully about anything.
Okay. One
One of the collective conscious sacred cows that we hold as Americans is veterans.
Okay.
Right? Veterans are a sacred cow in the United States. George Saunders does not care. George Saunders has no sacred cows, and George Saunders tears down a national sacred cow.
Good for him.
3, this reads so fast that the delusions in the story feel natural, and when the end happens, it feels like a collapse.
Okay. I have that this is the other side of Saunders. There are 2 sides of Saunders I've experienced. Dystopian science fiction Saunders, and Saunders tearing down the family dynamic. That accurate?
Yeah.
So this is the other side of Saunders, which I think he has a little bit more difficulty with, but this is more difficult of a topic than creating a fantastic world. So, this is also a beautiful example of someone dealing with PTSD, in my opinion. Maybe. But we'll get to that maybe.
Right.
And the mystery of reading this will constantly keep you on your toes as to what's exactly going on with everything here. Bad things?
1, sheriffs and veterans and the working poor and the town bullshitter. This feels a lot like a northeastern writer trying to write a Southern Gothic.
Okay.
Right? He's taken all of the characters and he's mixed them into a Southern Gothic style story, but the problem is, with the style of writing that Saunders does, it feels like he's just making fun of the South or Midwest, right?
Okay.
Because of the characters that he employs.
Some of them are a little over the top.
Right. 2, without a second glance at this story, it would be very easy to dismiss it entirely.
Okay.
And miss what the story is about.
Okay.
And number 3, the parallel between the ex and the sister seems lazily strong.
Okay.
I'm not sure if he was making a commentary with it, or if it's just, this is a stock character, this is a stock character, go.
Okay. As with a lot of Saunders, you can get lost in here trying to figure it out if you're not paying attention. This is situational humor that isn't as pronounced as some of the humor in other of his works. Finally, this is not a very quotable work. I didn't find a lot of quotes in this.
Okay.
But there were a few. There were a few. I'll give him that. I have from page 182. Ma was out there, head in hands, weaving in and out of her heaped up crap. It was both melodramatic and not. I mean, when Ma feels something deeply, that's what she does. Melodrama. Which makes it, I guess, not melodrama. Look at you go, Saunders. You clever man. Do you have any? Do you have a quote?
From 187. At that point, I started feeling like a chump. Like I was being held down by a bunch of guys so another guy could come over and put his new age fist up my ass, while explaining to me that having his fist up my ass was far from his first choice, and was actually making him feel conflicted.
I have one more from 188. That part of town was full of castles. Inside one of them a couple embracing. Inside another a woman had like 9 million little Christmas houses out on a table, like she was taking inventory. Across the river the castles got smaller. By our part of town, the houses were like peasant huts. Inside one peasant hut were 5 kids standing perfectly still on the back of a couch. Then they all leapt off all at once, and the dog went crazy. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Which Saunders is capable of. He really is. He can write so beautifully, but every now and then I think he just wants to be Saunders so bad that he just pushes it.
I can give you that.
Okay. So where would you like to start with this? Because this is a bizarre read. That is totally going to pick up.
I'm sorry about this.
It's fine.
For what was he court-martialed? Did you feel like you picked up on that?
No, not exactly.
His hesitation around children.
Okay.
And the propensity that he has for saying that he is a dangerous person.
Okay.
Make me think that he was court-martialed for killing children. This is also something that would be responsible for the level of PTSD that this man seems to be suffering from.
And the climax of the story seems to be when he it takes like a vase, is it, instead of the child and smashes it?
Right.
So that could be indicative of that. However, before we even get to that, is this man even a veteran?
I'm interested in hearing an argument against that.
Okay, so here's the thing. Constantly in this piece it says, well, my son's a veteran. My son's a veteran. He's only a veteran when they're in a bind, or when they're needing something. And he never really himself pushes the fact that he's a veteran. It's his mother, or his family.
But he does seem... Then what do you think it is that he's struggling with? Is this a facade that he has put up?
Maybe this is a facade that he's put up through his family, because this is obviously a very...
well, he has not put it up through his family.
No, his family has put up.
Well, I think that what you're looking at is you're looking at something called stolen valor, then, right?
Okay.
And very rarely is it someone else that promotes this idea of stolen valor. In fact, I've never heard of it. It would normally be the person who is stealing the valor.
This seems to be a damaged man. I will give him that. There's something not right with him. But it seems to be any time that the family, who they're obviously in financial straits, I could make the argument that I'd say they're a less educated family.
A stupid Southern family, might one say?
I know, my Northeastern roots are coming out. But anyway, it seems here that anytime that there's something going on, they're going to get evicted, the sheriff shows up again, the mother immediately comes up and says, well, my son's a veteran, why would you do this to us?
But he does not put that credit down, does he?
He doesn't do anything.
Then where is he getting this PTSD type behavior?
I'm not sure what's going on here, unless he has had a traumatic event with possibly a child, where this whole thing would be coming from. But it seems to be, and if we want to take the argument that you were saying earlier, where this is, you were talking about veterans, and how that is a sacred cow in the American culture, doesn't that highlight that, where the mother is literally using that trope of veterans being sacred to benefit herself?
Right, but I think that goes further to discredit the idea that he is not a veteran. Because if someone is going to be a fake sacred cow,
okay,
you're going to promote yourself in that way, aren't you?
Okay, we can make this argument. We can do this all day.
Okay, well, point to it in the text.
Anyway, what else we got to talk about here? Because I don't think we're ever going to agree on the argument of whether or not he's a veteran or not.
There's a bit in here about masculinity, isn't there?
Okay.
You're not masculine if you can't provide more, are you?
Okay.
All these people who are victims in this, the poor are shoved into the women category, aren't they?
Okay.
The victims are shoved into the women category, aren't they? And it's the rich guys they're not even heroes here. They're villains.
Okay.
So it strikes this strange line that there seems to be in society sometimes of, where do the good guys come from?
Well, I think it's very interesting that every character in this piece is flawed. The mother is flawed. The protagonist is flawed, obviously, through his PTSD. Is it the mother's boyfriend, or is it like her new fling, her husband?
Seems to be a fling.
He's severely flawed. He is just a constant liar about everything. He makes stories up. Everyone here has a flaw, but the only flaw that is ever really addressed by the others is this gentleman's PTSD.
By the others, yes, but what is that young man doing that has the PTSD? He's in the constant struggle for a type of respectability for his family, isn't he?
Okay.
I went and fought for this country. My family should be respected in the very least.
Yes.
Right? And that goes until the very end. We get this quote on page 201, the very last paragraph. Then suddenly softened in me. Maybe all the sight of Ma so weak, and I dropped my head and waded all docile into that crowd of know-nothings, thinking, okay, you sent me. Now bring me back. Find some way to bring me back, you fuckers. Or you were the sorriest bunch of bastards the world has ever known.
Which is beautiful. Beautiful paragraph.
Right. But that seems to be the whole story, isn't it?
It does.
That is the entire story. And in fact, you could drop that paragraph anywhere in this piece and it fits there.
Okay.
Doesn't it?
Yes.
Because you've got the mention of the Ma so weak. You've got him wading docile into the crowd of know-nothings, which he seems to, despite the fact that he is such an angry young man, he seems to find that docility somewhere in everything, right? Or at least a defeat from which you must run.
Okay.
Which is a type of docility, I would argue. The crowd of know-nothings, which goes to anger him again. And bring me back, you fuckers, or you are the sorriest bunch of bastards the world's ever known. That's what this story's about.
Yes.
That's what this... And he's not saying bring me back from the war. He's saying bring me back from whatever I'm going through up here.
Yeah. Now, I do think it's interesting that... is it the sister who goes on to improve herself?
Or the ex.
Or the ex. I get them confused.
That's
maybe your flaw there. Someone who has gone on to improve themselves, who have got themselves out of this socioeconomical circle, whatever you want to call it, they're the ones who are looked down upon.
Right. They're the ones who are seen with hatred.
Yes.
I wouldn't say they're looked down upon.
Okay.
But they are looked at with very much hatred. Right?
Very much so. And I think that is brilliant by Saunders, because that's what happens in family dynamics such as this. This is what we are, this is what we know, we don't jump class.
Right.
But when someone does take the initiative to jump class and improve themselves and try to give their family something better, they're immediately just dismissed as, how dare you? How dare you do something like this?
Yes.
But in that same aspect, when the mother goes to that person, which I want to say that's why it's the sister, when the mother goes there and says, we need help, she didn't want to, but she is willing to go and do that, then they're dismissed.
Right.
It's a perfect circle. It's a very vicious circle of this.
But they also know they're going to be dismissed before they go, right?
Yes.
They know they are losing a bit of their personhood in that approach.
Okay.
Which is very Southern Gothic.
Yes.
I mean...
And, like I said, this is not science fiction dystopia Saunders. This is Saunders' other strength here, which seems to be the breaking down of the family dynamic. Those seems to be the two things, especially in this collection, that he focuses on the most. And he always captures it perfectly. This is a very realistic family.
But you don't like this.
Huh?
But you don't like this story, though.
I'm not crazy.
Don't forget.
I don't forget. But it is a very realistic story. A very realistic family. And I think a realistic account of someone who is dealing with PTSD.
And I think it's a very realistic look, that sense of pride that is also shame.
Yes.
Is presented in here in a flawless fashion, which is something that I was a very angry young man, right? And it's something that makes me reflect on my own past. As you know now, I'm very loving and very caring and
absolutely
very
so.
Gandhi,
very docile,
very Jesus-like over here. So, but yeah, that's something that, from my reading, I picked up on immediately, and this is my second reading of the piece.
Okay.
And it's something that stays with you, I think.
I do think it's interesting that Saunders always seems to be capable of tackling, addressing, and breaking down taboo. He does that in almost all of his stories, and here we do, like you said, have the taboo of, veterans are supposed to be untouchable. We have the taboo of harm to children, which I think is very interesting, and it only comes at the very end. It's that scene where he wants to hold the child, and they say no, so he picks up the vase and smashes it. What war is this? Do we know what war it is? Because it's never really said.
Yeah, it's never addressed, but I'm imagining that it's...
But the two kids in the convenience store, was it the first one or the second one? So, is this a dated piece? Because it feels very modern.
Yeah, no, I think this is very modern. I'm not sure. What do you mean? What are you picking up on?
When he goes to the convenience store, they were talking about, which war, because, I've got a cousin in the war, something like that, is the first or the second.
Oh, right. I don't know if this is an actual war. I think this might be manufactured.
Could have been.
But it also, when you look at it, are you talking about Iraq or Afghanistan?
Well, the reason I asked that is knowing someone who is a Vietnam veteran. One of the greatest points he's ever brought up about this is, he said, always make sure you thank your veterans, whether you care about the war, agree with the war, thank the person who went and served. Because when you come back from war now, you're a hero. When the people who went through Vietnam came back, they were baby killers.
Right.
And that's what really, brought this to light at the very end is, yeah, that's a terrible name to call someone. Yeah, some people had to actually deal with that. And this man seems to be trying to come to terms with something that he has had to have done. And he still does have the restraint of not holding the child at the end, but he still is not over this.
Right. And here's what leads me back to... Look, this is a gorgeous flashback on page 199, and it's also what I think leads me to my interpretation that the child deal was what happened over there.
Okay.
I was on, a shame slide. You know what I mean? Once back in high school, this guy paid me to clean some gunk out of his pond. You snagged the gunk with a rake, then rake hurled it. At one point, the top of my rake flew into the gunk pile. When I went to retrieve it, there were 1 million tadpoles, dead and dying. At whatever age they were when they got those little swollen bellies and little pregnant ladies. What the dead and dying had in common was their tender white bellies had been torn open by the gunk, suddenly crashing down on them from on high. The difference was the dying were the ones doing the mad fear gesticulating. I tried to save a few, but they were so tender all I did by handling them was torture them worse. Maybe someone could have said to the guy who'd hired me, I have to stop now. I feel bad for killing so many tadpoles. But I couldn't. So I kept on rake hurling.
And that seems very much to be a comment on what this man has experienced.
It also seems to be a comment on it's the rich people who send the poor people to war.
Okay.
Right? The rake came down from on high, the word from on high that the government and the rich people are sending you to war. And what's the line here? There were 1 million tadpoles dead and dying at whatever age they were. Millions of young men over here, young men and women dying over here at whatever age they are.
And this could be a little bit of the trepidation that we have between the class system here of why the family is so adamantly against wealth.
Okay, yeah. And it seems to be more difficult than that, doesn't it? Because no one's against wealth who has wealth.
Correct.
Right.
But those who do not obtain it and therefore get the negative aspects of it, the other end of the spectrum,
right,
they're against it.
Right.
Anything else you really want to say about this? I know we haven't talked about this one much, but it is pretty cut and dry of what we felt about it.
Well, the kids who sell him the drugs, which he never takes, I don't think they're real.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, I do think that was that was Saunders' little bit of sci-fi there.
Yeah, that was the most Saunders part about this, right?
Yes. But you don't think they're real?
I don't think they're real. I think they're a hallucination. I think that they're something that this character has gone to sort of soothe himself, maybe.
Well, he does return the tag, and it's 2 different children there, and they say, oh, we've been looking for this. This is great. So there is a possibility there that maybe he found this, and this is just his reality.
Yeah.
Which is extremely unreliable, but that's fine. That's interesting, though.
Yeah, I think it's the most George Saunders part of this piece. It is, because those characters are just utterly hilarious.
Yes. Having read Saunders, though, I was pissed that I didn't get to know what that did. Yeah. Because when a weird named drug is dropped in a Saunders story, I'm like, all right, it's going to be a train wreck now. Yeah. Where are we going with this?
But that's sort of what he does, though, isn't it? He presents a drug that could be anything.
And it could have been anything, yes.
These could be, when you think about it, the reason he's going to them to get drugs is the same reason that people turn to drink.
Okay.
It's the same reason that people turn to sleeping pills. It's the same reason that people turn to marijuana sometimes.
So does this make this like a tragically heroic character? Because he's gone to find the escape, and he has literally the escape in his hand.
But he still succumbs to the circumstance.
Yes.
I'm not sure. I think that there's always something sadly tragic with most George Saunders pieces, and I don't think that this piece is any exception to that rule.
Okay. I have nothing else to say here. I'm fairly happy with what I had to say.
You're tapped?
I'm tapped. So what would you rate this piece?
I would give this 91 broken tadpoles out of 100.
91? I give it 84.
There's more here that you're not looking at.
84 white tadpole bellies.
Look at that tadpole paragraph.
It is a beautiful paragraph.
And tell me that there's not symbolism there, that there's not literature there. And he's planted that 2 pages before the end of the story.
Yeah. Maybe it was just this week I was so comfortable with like 85, 84.
I don't care. I'm Dalton.
Yep, I'm just going to give it an average rating. I don't like anything. Because the one poem I like, Adrian's going to say it was bad. Anyway, what would you recommend?
I went a bit of a different route. I am one who does not normally promote movies or television or any type of cinema because I don't have exposure to those things. But I think The Brothers, that movie with Tobey Maguire in it,
I don't think I've seen it.
He's a veteran.
Okay.
He's got PTSD.
Okay.
And the whole deal is just a twisted menagerie of emotion, and I would recommend that.
I've suggested this book a couple times before, but The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. That seems to be a good vision of what you bring back with you from war.
And you're talking the book, not the short story.
The book, yes,
okay.
The full book. So if you like this kind of thing, we do have a couple more George Saunders short stories to get through before we close the 10th of December forever. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Give this video a like as well. We always appreciate it.
Make sure you hit, you already said the subscribe thing. That's fine. I'm not usually the guy who does that anyway. Follow us on Twitter at StripCover and on Facebook at StripCoverLit. And if you want to hear us talk more about movies that one of us has never seen before, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Aristocrat Show and on Facebook not on Facebook, on YouTube at The Aristocrats.
There you go. You got through it.
I got through it.